Call this regular meeting of council to order at 7 p.m. on July the 4th, 2023. We will stay seated for a moment of silent reflection. Thank you very much. As we gather this evening, I would like to acknowledge on behalf of council and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Algona people. We would like to thank the Algona people and express our respect and support for their rich history. And we are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. During the month of June, I attended 14 meetings on county and or municipal business. On Wednesday, June the 21st, 2023, I attended the public meeting at the Golden Lake Community Center, hosted by Dillon Consulting and MTO. The meeting was an opportunity to gather public input on the options under consideration for improvements to the Highway 60 and Lake Dory Road, Coconuts Road intersection. Approximately 25 residents attended the meeting to review the options and provide input. The county has received the tenders for the reconstruction of Lake Dory Road from Golden Lake to Spurwood Road. The low tender was $700,000 over budget, and county staff is looking into reducing the scope of work to reduce costs. The Director of Public Works indicated that they are experiencing a 23% increase in input costs on a number of their tendered projects. Work on Lake Dory Road will begin this month and extend through August. County staff, the City of Pembroke, and the municipality of South Algonquin is working with MPP John Yakubuski regarding the $900,000 budget deficit resulting from the province's decision to change the funding cost share agreement for public health units. Previously, until 2020, the province funded 75% of the costs for public health, but will reduce their funding to 70% in 2024. These additional costs will be passed on to the county and local municipalities if the province eliminates the mitigation funding they've been providing the past few years. A detailed Brentford County District Health Unit report is attached. Great news reported in Meetingville Leader that 40 people attended the Snowdrifters public meeting and all positions for the executive committee have been filled. Brentford County is renowned for having one of the best trail networks in the province for ATVs and snowmobiles, and losing a portion of the network would have had a significant negative impact. Fire bans remain in effect in spite of the recent rain. The Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry is hosting weekly Thursday meetings with municipal mayors and fire chiefs, providing updates on the fires, restricted zones, and mobilization efforts throughout the province. Air quality advisories have become part of the daily forecasts, and precautions should be taken as required if you are outside for extended periods of time. And I also want to thank all of council for their participation in the Canada Day celebrations. Thank you to the Lake Dory Property Association for the wonderful breakfast. And also thank you to Cameron for organizing the entertainment and the tie-dyeing and the soccer. It all was a great success and we had a fantastic turnout. So I have a motion that the July 4th, 2023 Mayor's Address be accepted as presented, moved by Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor Rachel. Councillor Burnt? Yes. Councillor Buckhold? Yes. Councillor Robinson?
Yes.
Councillor Rachel?
Yes.
And yes, it's carried. Thank you. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof? Seeing none, and we'll move on to the adoption of the minutes for June 20th, 23, the regular council meetings, and June 6th, 2023, the public meeting minutes be accepted as presented. Moved by Councillor Burns, seconded by Councillor Buckhold. Any additions, corrections, or omissions? Seeing none, Councillor Burns? Yes. Councillor Buckhold?
Yes.
Councillor Robinson?
Yes.
Councillor Rachel?
Yes.
Yes, that's carried. Thank you. Item 7.1 is a public works update. I have a motion that council accept the public works update report as presented and direct staff to place the radar speed sign trailer on the suggested roads in July and August. And I'm gonna move in a second, moved by Councillor Buckwell, seconded by Councillor Robinson. Comments or questions? Councillor Schonfeld.
So, earlier on, I guess it was one of the portable ones that were on a post, that one was still on. Okay, so we're not putting one of those on, we're putting the actual one with the trailer.
Yes.
So yes, we will be installing the trailer, the portable trailer on the roads listed in the report.
And has it got some kind of safety anti-theft, option or something? Just in lieu of the fact that one was stolen already, like, do we have to tie it down with a big chain or something?
There is precautions that you take.
Yeah.
Councillor Robinson.
So I presume then, we only have one, we're gonna be rotating it for those 2 months.
So the report, so it mentions Green Lake Road, Bristol Road, and Island View Drive.
Any other questions? Seeing none, Councillor Byrd. Yes. Councillor Buckwell.
Yes.
Councillor Robinson.
Yeah.
Councillor Schonfeld.
Yes.
Yeah. Scary. Thank you. Item 7.2 is the road rationalization. I have a motion council accepts the road rationalization report as presented, and that a request be made to the County of Brantford to review that cemetery road from Highway 41 to the township boundary to determine if it meets the criteria under the road rationalization policy. And I'm going to move in a second. Moved by Councillor Buckwell, seconded by Councillor Byrd. Questions, comments, Councillor Schonfeld?
So I know it said, financial implications to be determined once the review is completed, but would you ever have like a ballpark figure of what it could be?
So there, not at this point. So it's a two-step process. So the first step is to determine if it meets the Ontario Good Roads Association criteria. And if it does, then there would be a review of the pavement condition index and and that's when we would know if there's going to be any compensation needed to be paid.
So this was something that was discussed at county, and the reason I brought it forward is that road currently meets the 70% pavement condition index. So if we were to transfer to the county, now would be the time to do it. As soon as it falls below the 70%, then there's a cost for the municipality to contribute their portion to bring it back up to the 70%. And because it's a connecting between Eganville and Highway 41, it, in my opinion, meets the criteria as a connecting link. So I thought if we could transfer that to the county, that takes a financial obligation away from us, I don't know, 10, 15 years down the road when it goes to replace, comes to replace that road. Yes.
Any idea how long that decision is, like how long this process is?
Usually it doesn't, there's no meeting of county council in July. They may have an answer as early as August or September.
Okay.
This would also mean that the maintenance of the roads would also be their responsibility.
I believe it would be, yes.
Okay, so
Sanding, salting, snow removal. Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, Councillor Byrd. Yes. Councillor Buckwell.
Yes.
Councillor Robinson.
yes.
Councillor Schonfeld.
Yes.
Yes, that's carried. Thank you. Item 7.3 is the planning update. I have a motion that council accepts the County of Brantford official plan amendment number 35 report as presented. And the council directs staff to prepare the bylaw to impose mandatory consultations ahead of submission of planning applications be enacted by council. And further, that staff update the tariff of fees bylaw to include new and revised planning fees. And I'm gonna move in a second, moved by Councilor Reggie Colton, seconded by Councilor Buckle. Comments or questions? Councilor Reggie Colton.
Do you have an example of how much percentage wise the fees will be going up? Like, are they going up like 50% or 10% or?
Okay. So I unfortunately don't have the percentage, and they vary. So,
Would you say they're going up substantially? Because I looked at some of them, but I don't know what it was before, like if we had $1,300 for consent application, like, I don't know, was it 700 before and now it's 1,300?
for example, previously it was an application was $1,200, it has now increased to $1,300.
Okay, so it's not going up substantially.
I don't think they're going up substantially. I mean, they did increase. It certainly wouldn't be 50%.
Right, okay,
I'm not even sure if it would be 10, but
okay,
it would probably be between 0 and 10% that they've gone up. The big one is the biggest change is that if somebody's applying for an application for a severance or a subdivision, not that we have many of those, but that they have to do all the preliminary work up front, because the changes from the province now, if it's not done in a timely fashion, then you have to refund their fees.
yeah,
So that's why they're changing the way the fees are charged. There's more upfront work that they require from the applicants so that they don't get caught having to refund. And a lot of times it's not the county or a municipality. Sometimes it's the consultants, sometimes it's the province themselves that are slow in getting their information back. So those are some of and the biggest one for us is there never used to be a fee for a general inquiry, but now they're charging $200 for a general inquiry. However, if you move forward with the application within a year, you get that, or that's deducted off of your application fee. So they're trying to discourage. I guess there were oftentimes people who just were looking to see what it would cost them to sever a chunk of property, but they never moved forward with it. So this might bring the more serious applications forward and ease some of the workload for staff. Did I miss anything, Michelle?
Yeah, no, I think you covered.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, Councilor Burks? Yes. Councilor Buckland?
Yes.
Councilor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilor Ray Schultz?
yes,
Yeah. Very computer. And 7.4 is the Enbridge Eganville Community Expansion Project. I have a motion that council accepts the Enbridge Eganville Community Expansion Project Phase 2 report as presented, and that JP2G is retained to review the Enbridge Eganville Community Expansion Project Phase 2 preliminary drawings for the quoted cost of $2,100 plus HST and disbursements. Again, moved in second, moved by Councilor Robinson, seconded by Councilor Buckhold. Comments or questions? Councilor Ray Schultz?
because we didn't budget for it, then it's coming out of our reserves, I'm assuming.
Oh, yes, Michelle.
Not necessarily, it will depend at the end of the year, the road department budget.
And we don't get any rental fees or anything from Enbridge. Do we?
So once the pipeline is in place, we will receive a payment in lieu.
So a payment in lieu every year or just,
Every year,
okay. Any idea how much that is?
it's
Is it like $2,100?
It's a tax rate, so it's
Okay, all right, thanks.
We'll know more once the pipe is in the ground. And this phase brings the pipe into Eganville from Mud Cemetery Road, but then there's a phase 3 and 4, if I remember correctly, which then comes from Eganville back out to Foodland and Country Depot and Pride Marine.
Okay,
And then there's a phase 4, but that goes out, towards, 512 that way.
Okay.
Any other questions? Being none, Councilor Burns? Yes. Councilor Buckwell?
Yes.
Councilor Robinson?
Yes,
Councilor Schoenfeld?
Yeah,
And yes, Barry, thank you. Item 10.5 is the Bolster Valley Recreation Agreement. I have a motion the council accepts the Bolster Valley Recreation Agreement. Report is presented and the council provides direction to staff. Moved by Councilor Robinson, second by Councilor Buckwell. Comments or questions? Councilor Schoenfeld?
so I always think it's interesting, it says to use all of the programs and facilities the Volusia Valley provides to its own residents, right? But like truly as a ratepayer, I only always think of two, well, kind of three, the rink, which allows for figure skating of our residents along with hockey, and then the library, right? But I mean, it makes it sound like they have a lot of programs, which they might, but the bad thing is, if I don't know about them, how can I participate in them?
Two big ones are hockey and figure skating. And I mean, you're right, they may run some summer programs in the arena. They did it one time. I don't know if they still.
Well, they talked about Zumba. They offered roller skating and Zumba classes, but like, I mean, I think we should contribute. However, if they make it sound like we're really using a lot of programs and facilities, I'd like to know what they are. So I mean, it would be nice if their rec department or somebody or whatever would send us that information so we can put it on our website or Facebook saying, you know, Zumba classes offered to blah, blah, blah. Because I think that's just important. If we're paying for them, which it seems like we are, then we should be allowed to know what they are and go.
Councilor Robinson.
and I know that Zumba classes are being held at the senior center, which is being, that's where like, I see a lot of participation taking place, and those individuals are paying as they go.
So maybe that's just something that we have to check it out and send back so that we realize if it's one of us going, we don't have to pay.
The other thing I have issues is the per unit costs that they're expecting versus what is being charged by Evanston Growing. But that I have a concern, that's a $30 per person difference almost. So I think we need to get some more information.
And apparently they only keep the numbers for figure skating and hockey of the participants coming from our township to use the facility. So we don't know if anybody is going that's taking part in there. Well, they don't have a swim program or Zumba or anything else that they might be putting on.
But it would be interesting on Councilor Robinson has said, it's like, why are we paying 192, 31, and Mr. Brown is paying 166, 66. So if they're saying it's because that we're participating in those other program and facilities, whatever, are we really? I mean, I'm just saying maybe we should be paying, the average would be like $170 for both of us or something.
Well, the reason that they're charging what they are is because that's what we've been paying them for the last 3 years. The 20,000, which breaks down to, was it 192 or 197? But maybe what we could do is make a counter offer and say, yeah, we'll continue the 20,000, but we won't entertain the 2% increases. Was it 2% or
2% each year.
Increases for the next 2 years or 3 years.
Because in fact, we've been overpaying in prior years.
Compared to the other municipalities.
Exactly.
And we'd also like to know what other activities are going on, so we can advertise those for residents, and like,
Right.
maybe then it'll be up to them to start to track that too, that's a good bargaining chip, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not too worked up about the difference between the per person rate, because if we want to put in 10 more people in because they become aware now that they can use it, that per person rate is going to go down.
Yeah.
So, but I think that's, it's more just in there for a comparison to see what it's like. All what I'm seeing at this point is basically we're putting up the same amount of money this year, and all they're basically they're looking for is a 2% increase next year and the year after.
And we're
So
saying,
other than that, it's pretty much status quo.
and I'm saying no.
That's a right point.
Well, and I think it's important to realize that it's not, the people that are figure skating and playing hockey, those are a select demographic, right? For kids. It's not me and it's not you, right? For the library, you can have kids to people that are 100 going in and using it. You know, so my thing is, I think it's really important that, you know, if they're wanting us to do that, then I want to be able to know what other activities are going on for other people, other age groups, right?
I don't think I mind a ball going there maybe this year.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard.
I think so.
I thought they might have a baseball team.
Yeah, I know there's a team that will be sponsoring the Diamonds, the
Oh,
lights.
okay.
But maybe not, like we used to have teams for, I think it's a baseball.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments? Yeah, Council Buckle.
Just one, how many years have we done that fixed amount of 20,000?
Back to, 2019.
Okay, so it's four years with no increase, okay.
But also those were periods where it was not being used as capacity because of the. So we're paying 20,000.
Well, and if you look at that chart that was on page 2 of the report, like in 09, we're paying 7,500, and then I realized there was upgrades to the arena in 2017 and 2018, that's where we're buying 45,000. But before that, we were also playing 12, so I mean, yes, there hasn't been an increase, but just like you said, there hasn't been a lot of activity going on because of COVID. It's picked up this year.
And so what did they do with the funds?
I would have to say they're probably underfunding. I have a feeling like, it costs you a lot to keep an arena going, for sure.
But then made that case as opposed to the way it's been presented.
Wow, that's great. And to me, it's bang for our buck for that demographics of kids. It's not necessarily bang for our buck for the rest of the ratepayers, right? Because I think if I was to rent it, I wouldn't get a deal on the ice.
I don't imagine they would.
No.
So I'll call the vote on this resolution.
Okay, what was the resolution?
Oh. Tell me, right, that.
And that's why I was gonna call the vote to see if this gets approved or not.
Okay.
And then we would have to maybe come up with new direction. I'll call the vote now. Yeah.
Just a procedural question, Mr. Mayor, so if
Oh, yeah, because it is asking for direction.
yes, so shouldn't we be actually putting the direction on this resolution?
Yeah. Well, if we accept the report as presented, we're agreeing to Bolger Valley's terms, correct?
That was one of the options. Yeah.
Oh, sorry if you had more information.
Well, I was just gonna say, so the options in the report were, remain status quo, not, currently we don't have an agreement in place. The second option was to enact the attached recreation agreement and bylaw. The third one was renegotiate the agreement. And the fourth one was provide alternate direction.
That's a buck.
So just looking at that difference in cost, so if the 20,000 is only what we budgeted for this year, and presumably we would budget for similar next year, had this request not come forward.
Right.
Next year, they're only looking for an extra $400, and the year after that, an additional 400 there. I'm just wondering how much money are we going to put in between staff time and everything else to negotiate over $400?
What happened to the number of kids have we put in the club? Like 15 kids next year.
Yeah, it's based on.
But in the alternative, if those numbers go up,
Yeah.
again, we don't know. I'm more comfortable with a set amount, even if it does have increases in it, as opposed to an actual per user process, because I know we've talked about that before, like reimbursing people for the difference between the non-resident and the resident. Unless we're gonna go back to that option and they haven't been giving us receipt from our ratepayers. Again, it's available. And it does give us committed access.
Councillor Allison.
I would say that we leave it at the 20,000 because that's what we've been paying. We did not have full access to during COVID, but we still paid it. So I'm saying for the next 3 years, leave it the same unless there was a significant reason to change it.
Now, he's saying we would agree to a 3-year term, but just keep the price at
20,000.
20,000.
Yeah.
Get the 2%.
And 2%, yeah.
Councillor Representative.
Well, I could go either way on this, just as Councilor Buckwald said, to me, the other $400 isn't great, every price has gone up, the price of fuel. I always look at the county, what they thought their quote would be, and look at what it turned out to be. I guess my biggest thing is, they're telling us about the other programming is available to us. I want it to be known, I want to know what it is.
Mhm.
So their rec department or their administration or somebody has to send that information to us. Because I want to be able to use it, you know, as an adult. You know, and to me, that other 2%, and you could say, and maybe we say like for 2 years, you know, that third year we'll pay the 2% or something like that. Because the problem I have too with that is, and I know it's the average and they break it down and stuff like that, and maybe that shouldn't have been in the report, but it really does look like we're paying more for our kids than what Atlas and Normal is. A lump sum is much easier, and I agree, and some people would like us to do like, a pay-as-you-go and stuff like that, but I also think the amount of money that costs our administration to like govern that, and the other thing too, it's very difficult to budget for that, just like you said, we could have 10 this year and 30 this year, like I do like the lump sum and stuff. It's nearly like they're trying to say, we're giving you a really good deal here, you know, but I think we're giving them a really good deal on the library and other things too, because I mean, as the money shrinks, some of the programs may have to go, and I look at Beechford, they may never get that arena going in Beechford ever again. Because it'll cost millions to get it to go, which is very unfortunate.
Councillor Buckwald.
The big thing that I'm looking at is, again, it's an amount that we've already budgeted for this year, agreed to, and like, as Stan has said, now it's not just for the arena, now it's access to, I guess, the town support for the municipal, or they owned by someone else.
No, they'd be like.
They're part of the municipality.
Mhm.
Right, so yeah, and if they have a swim program, if we're unable to find someone, then we have access for that at the same rates, or any other things that go on like that.
That's right,
We're now parties to all of them, as
That's-
opposed just to the arena.
that's right.
From my perspective, I think it's a fair deal.
Because I know they used to have stuff going on at the Eganville school, right, pickleball and stuff like that. Well, have I known, perhaps I would go there, right? Like, I mean, just, it doesn't mean that there's gonna be an influx of people, probably not. But if you're kind of using that as a little carrot, then I wanna know what it is, so if I choose to go, I can.
So what I'm hearing is that we would agree with their terms, but we want to know what other programs are available and how that's gonna get communicated. Any other comments? Being none, Councillor, oh, sorry, I think I'm hearing with the 2%. But we'll find out in a second. Councillor Byrne. Yes. Councillor Buckwald.
Yes.
Councillor Robinson.
No.
Councillor Representative.
Yes,
I'm a yes, so that is carried. Thank you.
They actually have a nice list on their website.
yeah, I know, but they should give it to us.
But yeah, and if they're running events, then by all means, they should share it with our office, so we can put that advertising for readers as well.
Item 7.6 is the noise bylaw extension, and the motion council agrees pursuant to section 5.0 of bylaw 2020-49. the noise bylaw to extend the time that amplification equipment may be used at an outdoor public event or private event on July 28th, 29th, and 30th, 2023 to 1 AM for property located at 79 Finman Road. And I got a mover in a second, moved by Councilor Schultz, seconded by Councilor Burns. Comments or questions? Councilor Schultz?
So this is like more than a one-time deal? Like that we're gonna extend it permanently? Is that what's going, like, I was just kind of confused.
Go ahead.
So, the property owner has asked for an extension for 3 days. July 28th, 29th, and 30th. So they're, we would extend the time limit to 1 AM. For those 3 days.
Okay, so, okay, because it just made, when I was reading all the bylaws and stuff like that, then I was thinking, are we actually changing the bylaws? We're just asking kind of for, okay, that makes sense.
They've asked for an extension and, if the bylaw is passed, we would grant it.
And so it's just for that day, that time, the year. Perfect. I just want a clarification. Thanks for clarifying that.
Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, Councilor Burns?
Yes.
Councilor Buckwell?
Yes.
Councilor Robinson?
Yes,
Councilor Reggie Schultz?
Yes,
And yes. Carrie, thank you. Item 7.7 is a noise bylaw extension. I have a motion to Council Breeze pursuant to section 5.0 of bylaw 2020-49, the noise bylaw to extend the time that amplification equipment may be used at an outdoor public event or private event on Saturday, August 19th, 2023 to 1 AM and on Sunday, August 20th, 2023 for property located at 1075 Coal Creek Road. Moved by Councilor Robinson, seconded by Councilor Buckwell. Comments, questions? Seeing none, Councilor Burns?
Yes.
Councilor Buckwell?
Yes.
Councilor Robinson?
yes,
Councilor Reggie Schultz?
yes.
And yes, carried. Here. Item 7.8 is the Golden Lake sidewalks. I have a motion, council accepts the Golden Lake sidewalks report as presented and staff recommend proceeding with the project and that roads reserves be used to fund the shortfall. And I get a move in a second, moved by Councilor Buckwell, seconded by Councilor Burns. Comments or questions? Councilor Reggie Schultz?
This is kind of upsetting to me because, you know, initially we had nearly budgeted $100,000 and then the county said, oh, that was a mistake. Then we were gonna six, which made me feel better. And now it's like over $100,000. And to me, it's for $100,000 for a very small portion of our residents to use. And I think how much that $100,000 could have been used to revitalize one of our other roads where we have multiple people and multiple uses for the road. And I kind of get it, but it looks like from now on, we have to make a bigger fudge factor in anything we budget for, because like, to me, this is ridiculous. You know, for the amount, like, when we were deliberating at budget time and it was $100,000, I was voting against doing the sidewalks. Because I thought that was no wise use of our resources. I would rather have it go to Point Church Road or some of the other roads that need it more. Like, that's a lot of money.
We do get the HSC back.
Yeah.
Is that 50%?
it's painful.
Hmm?
It's painful.
Like, to me, it's more than painful. Like,
It's,
I have a hard time when people say it looks like Golden Lake is getting more than the rest of the township. And when I see that, I mean, you don't know how many calls you get about those other roads, you know, and like, there's nobody driving on the sidewalk. Well, I guess.
I hope not. I haven't done that in years.
No, I don't, but I mean, like, we can't just pulverize it and have gravel. I guess we could.
that was thinking,
I don't know.
Well, I hear what you're saying. It is a lot for a sidewalk, but at the same time, I hate to see everything else done and upgraded and
Yes.
sidewalks left.
It is the right time to do sidewalks.
And I understand the frustration too. But either way, we're gonna have to do something with those sidewalks, because even now, the public works guys even trying to clean the snow off it. I think it's because the asphalt that was just laid over the old cement sidewalk is sealing and chewing, and they're gouging into it. Something's gotta be done, and if we can, because if we try to do it ourselves at a later date, it's gonna cost us.
Yeah.
Right, and it's being incorporated into another project. Or we can give everybody 3 feet of grass back
Mhm.
and get rid of the sidewalks. With active transportation, that's, if we're promoting that, now if we're gonna roll that back, we have a whole other set of issues.
Any other questions, comments? So seeing none, I'll call the vote. Council Bernard,
Yes.
Council Barclay,
Yes,
Council Robinson,
Yes,
Council Ricky Shannon.
No,
Yes, so that's carried. I think 7.9 is the bylaw enforcement options. I have a motion, council accepts the municipal law enforcement report as presented, and that council provides direction to staff. And I got a mover and a seconder, and moved by Council Robinson, seconded by Council Buckle. Comments, questions? Council Ricky Shannon.
when I first started to be a council member here, we had talked a long time about getting a bylaw officer and whether we needed one or not, and it seemed to me for a long time, we never had bylaw officers. We had dog control that we would, farm out to another, I don't know, organization or service group or something. And then we talked about why having a bylaw would be very important and very good. And then when we had our service review, Holly had posed the question, do you need bylaw, right? So then I started thinking, well, this is ridiculous. We spent all this money. Of course we need it. And then as time has gone on, I'm starting to change my mind going, do we really need bylaw? And what can they really do? And we're coming to look at, you have a $40,000 shortfall, we're taking out the reserves for a sidewalk. There's other stuff we'd like to do. I mean, you learn from your mistakes. I'm a big believer. Mistakes aren't a bad thing. We learn from them. And we did put money and time and effort into it, but maybe it's just not the right way to go. Maybe we can handle these things in another way. Because I truly didn't know that we didn't have bylaw on the weekends. I really thought it was just like fire service. When you had an emergency, you called and they'd be there. And I didn't realize that. And to me, lots of time what happens is things happen on the weekends and at night. They don't happen during the day, right? So let's just say we go with option 1 or 2. That's gonna cost us more money yet again. So some of those things, like we had talked about, they can be done in a civil manner or they can be done with the OPP. And with that dog, I mean, if that was a whole issue, the dog, then maybe we have to look at, a dog catcher doing something differently that way. But I'm starting to think now, personally, we don't need a bylaw officer.
when this was first brought to us to bring bylaw officers, I was in favor of it coming in, because what's the point of having, if you're going to have bylaws that are enforceable, you need to have something to enforce. I think it's a question that comes to council, because has there been a benefit to having a bylaw officer doing enforcement to date since we brought this in? And we have to look at service, numbers of service tracker and that to see if it is feasible or even necessary. So I think that's the decision that we as a council should make first is, do we need to have enforcement of bylaws, or do we modify our bylaws and take out the enforcement provisions? Yes, because to me, we're putting the cart ahead of the horse, right? Like we could look at, implementing a call service or adding into the compensation for the current bylaw coordinator or bylaw officers to be on call even the weekends after hours. Or again, as our consultant has told us during the service review, do we even want to do it? I don't see it as a mistake that we did it. I see it as Janet said, we learned from it. It was a learning experience. It was suggested to us. We made the decision, we tried it. Maybe we found out after trying it, we don't need it. So maybe that's the decision that we need to make tonight is, are we going to continue to enforce bylaws? If we decide that we are, then we have to go ahead with determining something here. If we decide that we're not, then this report's moot point. We no longer require it. And if we do wind up going that route, it's not like we're laying anybody off, right? We're not displacing anyone from a position. So I don't know. The only bylaws that I've seen referred to council are noise and dogs. And I don't think we have a whole lot more that we have enforcement in our bylaws.
Councillor Robinson.
Well, I think like the other two councillors, I'm mixed feeling with it. One of the comments that has been made by some of the residents has been, if you have bylaws, they should be able to enforce them. However, I think we've been going circular on this, because the times when most infractions takes place is after hours and on weekends. And if we don't have somebody there to be able to address those issues, then what is the reason? Before we say we don't need to have enforcement, I'd like to look at some other options that are out there. How can we best manage this? Whether it's without an enforcement officer, but there needs to be a way so that our residents can actually have a way of reaching some sort of resolution to those.
Councillor Robinson.
A long time ago, we always talked about cost recovery, and if we do this, can we cover our costs? You know, so with the CBO, you hope with the permit and then the new bills coming in and the taxes generated, that helps to pay for their salary, right? And so when I look at this, to me, we're not going to recover the costs we put in, right? And so I agree with Councillor Robinson, perhaps what staff has to do, and maybe this is going to be a process, but we should set a timeline on it. But like maybe they call, let's say Holly, when she was in South Algonquin, it sounds maybe how did they deal with those issues, right? How do other small municipalities, Adams and Bromley, how did they deal with them? Like truly the noise bylaw thing, you know, perhaps it could be something the police get called into. You're having a really loud party. I like the fact that 2 residents came to us and basically said, can we extend the hours? That's what people can do, right?
Mhm.
Then we know. Plus, 2, they're probably telling their neighbors what's going on, so they know what's going on. Like that communication is very, very important. This dog thing and let's say horses and stuff at large, you know, that's been an ongoing issue all the time, probably in all municipalities. Why? Like, I mean, the one time the person said, well, if you can catch the dog, then you catch the dog, right? That's what you do. Right? And like with horses out, and if their horses are getting out and they're destroying my property, perhaps that's a civil matter. Like, what could we actually do? Give them fines? Is that going to prevent that from happening? Like, you know, add that on to their taxes, or they're going to pay, like, you know, it's a lot of stuff that we're doing, and are we getting any cost back from that? I don't know.
I guess we get costs back if they get fined. Probably doesn't recover all the costs, but there's some recovery there. My concern is, and I think there's a couple of things we could do. I'd like to refer it back to staff, because I hear what Councillor Buckwell is saying. I'd like to know how many service tracker calls we're getting for bylaw. I would think most of them are for barking dogs. I wouldn't like to see bylaw eliminated, especially when it comes to fire and you know, somebody having a campfire when it's the fire ban on. So.
Just on that, sort of, Mr. Mayor, as far as fire goes, you can still have designated bylaw enforcement on your fire department to enforce the municipal bylaws as far as fire goes. But if you want to get to do other stuff, because assistant to the fire marshal, so the chief and anyone that he's appointed can actually issue tickets.
Okay,
So you'd want to clarify with the fire chief who all current status. As far as that, if you want to go get 400 with tickets, but it is possible, without having a dedicated fire law enforcement officer.
and just to follow up on Councilor Rector's phone call, what some of the other municipalities, there's at least 4 or 5 that use Jim McCain, I think, is the bylaw enforcement service that he provides. And he does it for contract to different municipalities, and he looks after all their bylaw, and he does the court appearances, the whole thing. I don't know if he's taking on any more municipalities, I don't know what it costs, but that is another option. As I say, that's why I would like to refer back to staff to come back with a little more information. Some data on what the calls are for bylaw, and if it's all just about dogs, so do we need it?
Okay, so.
And no matter what we do or decide, I think, once again, it's important that we somehow tell the public what we're doing and why we're doing it. And like, if they don't think that we're ignoring them, right? That now we don't, like, and say, we still have bylaws, we can still enforce them, we're just not doing it through it. Right, and I think that's just important, because it's not gonna be like the wild, wild west. For a long time, really, we didn't have anybody doing the bylaws, right? Now we made some new bylaws where we could have an officer, but no, I think it's important.
I think also the other thing that would be interesting to find out as the impact of having the bylaw officer. Has it been, has there been an impact? Did we see a difference? And I think those are some of the information would be very effective. Find out, did it make a difference?
And did the residents think it was a good idea?
Exactly.
They were in good point. They were in good.
So because if they weren't, then it's important, let's go back to them.
Right.
As far as making it cost effective, in your bylaws, you don't necessarily have to go through provincial offenses ticketed. You can also do administrative
Yes,
penalties.
that's right.
Right.
That way you get all the evidence, it doesn't go to the good court system.
Yeah.
They've got another cost that you incur with it as well, but it's on the option.
Yeah.
So, can we defer this? I'll, ask first the council, vote to defer. Council Burns?
Yes,
Council Buckles?
Yes.
Council Robinson?
Yes.
Council Rector Sonko?
Yeah.
And a yes. That's deferred by staff. Item 7.1 is fire department updates. I have a motion to council accept the fire department report as presented. And then move in second, moved by Council Robinson, seconded by Council Burns. Comments, questions? Council Rector.
So I don't know if anybody watched W5 on Sunday, but if you haven't, you should, because it talked about how, and I couldn't believe this, that 85% of the firefighters in Canada are volunteers.
Yeah.
Like, I could not believe that. It was like, what? So I think it's really important that we support our fire department, but on the other hand, lobby the government saying a small municipality, and they talk about small municipalities, are going to have problems sustaining a volunteer fire department, whether it's for training or whether it's doing something like, your vehicle, ages out when our vehicle shouldn't age out because we don't use it as much, whether it's thinking outside the box. In one municipality, they couldn't get enough guys together. They said the worst time to have a fire is during business hours, right? Because everybody's working. And I think that's where we have to talk to our chief and talk to the county and talk to everybody else, like be proactive about this. I think it's good that we have this legislation. I think it's good that everybody's on the same page. However, a small municipality can't sustain what we need to have a viable fire department.
Especially when it comes to equipment and cost.
Well, it's costly. I'd rather spend it on a truck than a sidewalk, but It's getting to the point where the costs are gonna be so high that we won't be able to have a fire department.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
It's already
a truck. Yeah, to replace a truck now is
It's
So-
$500,000 to $1 million.
But this is happening like to all small, and like when it's 85% of your volunteers, I mean, think like, oh my good grief, in the government, how many people are volunteering their time in the government? Zero, right? But you're expected to do this fire and to be trained and to risk your life, right? Because you're a volunteer. Yeah, okay, I know you did get paid some money, I get that, but you're not getting paid as much as you should.
not getting paid what a career firefighter makes.
No, and like the thing is, the places in Ottawa, and the places in Toronto, you know, they have the tax base to sustain them, right? And their trucks do age out and do get old, legitimately. Okay, that's my rant, I'm done.
Any other comments, questions? I tend to agree that, I mean, having the standardized training, probably a good idea, but again, the province brought that criterion in and didn't provide any, they provided a little funding for books and material. But other than that, there's no funding to help these new firefighters train to the same level as somebody who's full-time, so it does create a burden, and it's, even though the fire marshal would argue that it hasn't prevented people from signing up to be volunteers. I tend to disagree. I don't think we still have a full complement at Golden Lake.
We don't have a full complement, and I know speaking with other departments, even down in the Atlantic area around Ottawa. Yes, they still have lots of people applying, but they don't have as many people making it through the training and becoming certified to continue because of the time commitment. Right, there's still people out there that want to do things for the community.
Right.
Right, and I understand the concept. The fire doesn't care whether you're full-time career or full-time volunteer. It's the same fire that you're going into, but at the same time, in our setting, we also do things differently than career departments simply because the travel time involved. Sometimes the building is too far gone to be able to go and do a lot of the exterior stuff. You need a different skill set. The fire marshal's office used to be big on the phrase, your municipality's particular needs and circumstances. And it seems that with the training component, they've thrown that out the window. So like, no, cookie cutter approach, everybody will be trained to the same basic level. And I get that. There are some things that you have to have. But at the same time, there's departments out there that don't do water rescue. But I see that the paramedic services just approve getting a boat so that they can do response on water for patient recovery, for patient retrieval. A lot of departments don't do what we call high angle rescue or technical rescue or rope rescue, but our paramedic service does, so that they can get to patients. It's just an example of, again, economies of scale. Do you have a dedicated crew that's available on a regular basis to do these extras as opposed to the basics of water and fire, which is what most people understand. And it's a challenging time, a challenging cost, and a challenging training capabilities.
And going forward, to me, it's going to get more of a challenge because every time you lose one of your trained firefighters, now you have a process of probably a year to 2 years to get somebody back up to that same level. And just as you're saying, it's not even so that they aren't willing to do the training, it's that time commitment, like they have to do a lot of it on their own time.
The biggest pressure I think you're going to see for volunteer fire departments isn't going to be now with the announcement, it's going to be in 2 or 3 years from now. Once people haven't been able to meet that threshold,
Right.
or coming near the end of their volunteer career that have just decided, I'm not going through all that to get certified to stay on.
Right.
That's when you're going to see the real recruiting problem, because again, of that lag to be able to hire somebody and train them and make them operational.
Perhaps the letter to the editor should come from you, Doug. With the one from Harvard. I mean, people don't realize that. I don't think people, and I think we have to get them to realize it.
Yeah, we
You
actually
need to realize it.
in the fire service, there's a number of organizations, and I don't want to maybe the council speak on their behalf, that are out there lobbying and telling the province and the feds the same things. Training, resources, funding. Do the same thing for the deers.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure they're telling those people, they have to tell these people.
Anyways, we're kind of off topic because the vote is about accepting the fire department report. Councilor Burt?
Yes.
Councilor Buckle?
Yes.
Councilor Robinson?
Yeah.
Councilor Ryder Council?
Yeah,
Yeah. Aaron, you? Item 7.11 is the doggy paddle 2023 request. I have motion council accepts the doggy paddle 2023 request. Report is presented and staff recommends offering funding to the doggy paddle event for the Water and Earth Festival. Moved by Councilor Robinson, seconded by Councilor Ryder. Comments, questions? Seeing none, Councilor Burt?
Yes.
Councilor Buckle?
Should we set a number in the resolution, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah,
and I did have one comment.
Did we have that a number?
we should have added an amount, yeah.
8 or 100, 8 or 1,000 or 1,200. But I just have one comment. I think it's important because we told people around the lake, like, we weren't gonna have it, now we are gonna have it, so can we just make sure that gets in on all our social media platforms, say, whoopee, bow wow, we're getting it.
It was supposed to say.
Did you? Perfect. They're on Facebook, I don't get it in time. So I like the idea of $1,000.
I can get behind
Okay. Councilor Burns already voted. Councilor Buckle?
it. Yes.
Councilor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilor Ryder?
Yes,
I'm a yes. There, thank you. Item 9.1 non-action items, we have a motion council accepts non-action communications items 9.1.1 to 9.1.6 as information. We get moved in a second, moved by Councilor Buckle, seconded by Councilor Ryder. I just wanted to make a comment on the library report, just to remind everybody that the Township Authors Festival starts next week and runs every Monday for the month of July.
That's correct.
Okay,
And also there's a, Lucy Montgomery show that's on, July 30th as well, which is a combination.
okay, I'll call the vote. Councilor Burns?
Yes.
Councilor Buckle?
Yes.
Councilor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilor Ryder?
yes,
I'm a yes. It's carried. Thank you. Item 9.2.1 is the Man Magazine message. Motion that the township advertises in the Mad Message magazine in the amount of $299 for a business card size as advertised in prior years. Moved by Councilor Buckle, seconded by Councilor Burt. Comments or questions? Seeing none, Councilor Burt?
Yes.
Councilor Buckle?
Yes.
Councilor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilor Ryder?
no,
Yes, that's carried. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, just as a suggestion to staff, could we include that into next year's budget? Preparations, as one of our line organizations to consider, just so that we address it then and we don't have to do it.
That comes up.
So item 9.2.2 is the County of Renfrew summary. I have a motion that in consideration of correspondence received from the County of Renfrew respecting housing and homelessness, council supports the resolution and directs staff to forward a copy of the resolution to the Right Honorable Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, the Honorable Ahmed Hassan, Minister of Housing, Diversity and Inclusion, Honorable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, Honorable Stephen Clark, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, charitable lodge MPP, renter net to St. Pembroke. John Yakubowski, MPP, renter net to St. Pembroke. The Association of Municipalities of Ontario, the Eastern Ontario Workers Caucus, the City of Pembroke, and Venture County municipalities. And then we're going to second and moved by Councilor Robinson, seconded by Councilor Birch. Comments or questions? Seeing none, Councilor Birch. Yes. Councilor Rushing.
Yes.
Councilor Robinson.
Yes.
Councilor Kikuchi.
Yes,
And yes. Carrie, thank you. Item 13.1 is this strategic planning and coordinating committee. And I have a motion, council accepts the strategic planning and coordinating committee report is presented and approves of the listed recommendations. And we're going to second and moved by Councilor Buckwell, seconded by Councilor Rakichenko. Comments or questions? Seeing none, Councilor Birch. Yes. Councilor Buckwell.
Yes.
Councilor Robinson.
Yes.
Councilor Rakichenko.
yes,
And a yes, that is carried. Thank you. I'm on to the matter of urgency. Do we have any matters of urgency? Any notices of motion? Reports from committees are done. Upcoming meetings and business. So our meetings for August will be sent out at a later date.
August 15th.
August 15th is the next meeting. So I have a motion that council go into closed session pursuant to section 239(2)(b), D, E, and I of the Municipal Act regarding two personal matters about an identifiable individual, one labor relations or employee negotiations, one litigation or potential litigation, and one information supply in confidence by a third party. And I got a seconder moved by Councilor Bird, seconded by Councilor Robinson. Councilor Bird? Yeah. Councilor Buckwell?
Yes.
Councilor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilor Rakichenko?
yes.
Yes, and we're going into close at 8:02 p.m. By motion of staff to proceed as directed in closed session in regards to the delegation. Moved by Councilor Buckwell, seconded by Councilor Robinson. Councilor Burt? Yes. Councilor Buckwell?
Yes.
Councilor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilor Rakichenko?
Yes.
And yes, carried, thank you. Item 16.2 is a memorandum of understanding. I have a motion that staff proceed as directed in closed session, moved by Councilor Robinson, seconded by Councilor Birch. Councilor Birch? Yes. Councilor Buckwell?
Yes.
Councilor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilor Rakichenko?
Yes.
And a yes, carried, thank you. Item 16.3 is a development proposal, and I have motion staff proceed as directed in closed session. Moved by Councilor Rakichenko, seconded by Councilor Robinson. Councilor Burke? Yes. Councilor Buckwell?
Yes.
Councilor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilor Rakichenko?
Yeah,
And a yes, that's carried, thank you. 16.4 is a Fourth Street Quartet. I have motion staff proceed as directed in closed session, moved by Councilor Buckwell, seconded by Councilor Kishonfeld. Councilor Burke? Yes. Councilor Buckwell?
Yes.
Councilor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilor Kishonfeld?
yes,
Yes, that's carried, thank you. And human resources, I have a motion that staff proceed as directed in closed session. Moved by Councilor Buckwell, seconded by Councilor Birch. Councilor Birch? Yes. Councilor Buckwell?
Yes.
Councilor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilor Rakichenko?
yeah.
I mean, yes. That's carried. And 17 is our confirmatory bylaw. I have that bylaw 2023-35 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council for July 4th, 2023. Read a first and second time this 4th day, July 2023, moved by Councilor Robinson, seconded by Councilor Reddish-Shonfeld. Read a third time and finally passed this 4th day, July 2023. Councilor Berg,
Yes.
Councilor Buckwell,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson.
Yes.
Councilor Reddish-Shonfeld.
Yeah,
And a yes, thanks, Henry. And finally, like this July 4th, 2023, regular meeting of council adjourns at 9:56 p.m. Moved by Councilor Buckwell, seconded by Councilor Robinson. Councilor Byrd,
Yes.
Councilor Buckwell,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes.
Councilor Reddish-Shonfeld,
yes.
and a yes, it's carried. Thank you.